Welcome to the Winners Find a Way show. I am your host, CEO of Longevity, entrepreneur, international speaker, and three-time World Series coach. And I am with Brant. Montana. We are in Montana with Reject Average Adventure. And I'm telling you, I'm so excited to talk about this. This is about you've done
around this.
Yes.
Ramping up for where I am today.
First of all, why do you decide as doers to talk about it?
I think because what happens is as high performing people, we get up into sort of a routine of accomplishment for the office environment. And what I found was I was not doing any sort of accomplishing anything outside of the office. And I found that once I really started to return focus to like, what do I actually want? What makes me happy? What do I enjoy pursuing? Then it was like, I found it.
I mean, this place is incredible. We're staying gorgeous. It's just $1 million stay to cross things off our bucket list, do things differently than we've done. We'll change our lens a little bit.
Yeah.
Talk about why that's important.
Well, shape or form. And like, I've had guys that, are very high exit individuals that at the end of our weekend will be like, oh my God, I needed this so bad. Thank you so much. I had so much fun. This was the most amazing thing. And I remember looking at him and being like, dude, you could hire a guy full time to do nothing but plan stuff like this for you all your life.
Every weekend.
Like, what are you doing? Why do you need to plan? And I think that weekend, the entire thing, like with the plane and everything was like $4,200 or something.
Right.
Like, it's like, you don't need that. Get through them. My friends been a fan of the stuff I've been doing. And I was like, well, why don't you do one of these things? And he wanted to like see his college friends. So I walked him through. He planned a golf tournament, got college buddies and people from around the country. Like, go 3 pontoon boats at any lake around you. Rent 3 pontoon boats. You don't need 3. You rent 3 pontoon boats. They'll cost you $100 each or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Then send an email out to everybody you know in the area. But like, hey, I rented these pontoon boats. Everybody chip in $75 or $52 or whatever it is. Yeah. And we're all going to go out to the sandbar and we're going to barbecue and whatever.
Yeah.
Like, you will have people say yes.
Yes.
They will show up. They'll be so appreciative. And instead of you spending a weekend doing whatever you're going to do, now you have a bunch of your friends together. You're on a pontoon boat at the bar having the greatest day.
No.
Now, if you sit around at home and wait for someone to invite you to go take a pontoon boat out, like you're going to wait there forever, particularly if you don't have a boat, right? Like,
yeah.
Do you like those side-by-side, those razor machines? Do you want, if you don't have, go and then go invite a bunch of people?
Yeah. And
you'll find you'll have friends that'll be like, oh my God, yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Just like you would be. Just why Trent's here right now. Because he's like, oh, you're getting like dudes together. We're going to go to Big Sky and fun stuff all weekend. Like,
Done.
Yeah.
Done. Right.
You know?
And I looked at Harley. $150 a day.
Right.
I mean, so wait a minute, I'm gonna do a whole weekend. Oh, weekend package is only $400.
Right.
Like, I'm gonna do 3 days on Harley for $400.
The fun thing is like, here's what's wild about that. Like, would you go do that by yourself?
No.
Right.
You have to have somebody to do it with.
That's the thing. And so if you plan it together, it never happens.
So
and if you planned this weekend with your family, it would have cost you $8,000.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because like you have to stay here and you pay people. Like, I run it through my nonprofit. So it's like this weekend will cost us $500.
Yes.
And it's because it's not a business. Its only goal is to provide joy and to find great connections with great people and do fun things. And if you made a list at home right now of like 10 things you want to do with shit you don't own, then it's like, it's so easy to make that happen. It's the invitation that will create the motivation. I did it with the first thing was jet skis. I saw a guy with jet skis towing it behind his truck. And I was like, I haven't been jet skiing in 8 years. I love jet skiing. I'm never going to jet ski. I live in Los Angeles. No one I know owns a jet ski. For 1 week. And it's like they were like $260 for the day.
All right. So when we talk about these trips,
yeah,
and I've been on tons of them because of the entrepreneur organization.
Yeah,
you're very good at creating once in a lifetime experiences. One of the biggest thing I get from this is relationship building. I mean,
Yeah.
absolutely building relationships, of absolute rock stars, and the kind of people I want in my life that produce the kind of joy you're talking about.
That's right.
That share the same attitudes. But a lot of it comes from vulnerability, authenticity, the people that are willing to come in and deep and talk about hard things. Because I mean, as gorgeous as all this is, I always leave with, we had some of the best conversations.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and that is, well, and that was the difference between when I went from just having like the weekends or the adventures to doing this executive stuff. Because I realized sometimes the guy bonding with each other than even the stuff we did.
And it's great.
Yeah. And so I started looking for job. Right.
Right.
And I told her yesterday, like, you know, I had a questionnaire.
All right. So finish that thought, like as you were talking about the people that you invite, the conversations. We just finished off with the people get finally their chance to talk.
Yeah.
Because in our daily jobs, right, we're so busy. It's a list of 41 things to do. Then I get home, I got 4 kids to drop off. I've got this to pick up. I got dinner with my wife, maybe friends. I mean, all of a sudden it's like I'm awake 18 hours and 17 hours and 50 minutes are full. So when would I ever talk about the challenges of my life? And
also, who else is going to want to listen to you complain about your challenges? Like, that's the other thing. Like, who's going to understand that? Who's going to appreciate that? Who's going to like be in the same mode where they're like, yeah, I've been through that, or I get that. It's like, what do you hope to accomplish with this year? Like, what do you think that's the things you've struggled the most over the last couple of years with? Like, who are you going to talk to that about? And like, who can you talk to that has been through that or understands that or is better at it, or that kind of thing is really interesting. And even like last night at the dinner where you're like, we're talking to the guy who owns this ridiculous house and he's able to talk to us about the details of his investment portfolio because he's like, well, there's 7 guys here who kind of like know the world well enough that he feels like comfortable enough to share actual details and not worry about the appearance of it. And for us, it's like, oh my God, what a great illumination of that version of investing. And it changed a lot of the stuff I'm thinking about. And and you just wouldn't normally have those conversations with that guy because that's like here's a safe space.
Yeah. And I think here's the other thing that I find very intriguing is that we talk about challenges that we're facing. And listen, this is why executives in the world call leadershipity, right? Like they want us to have a person to bounce off. They want a trusted advisor to talk about the challenges they're facing and bounce ideas and whiteboard things and everything else. And I think when people get together, I don't know or know very few people that aren't going through some challenges in their lives.
Yeah,
and regardless of what it is, whether it's a sick child, whether it's a new job, whether it's COVID, I mean, we just keep talking about the things and we are faced with adversity and challenge every day. Adaptability is at the top of our list. And we need people to have those discussions and run through it.
Yeah, of course. And that helps a lot. And again, when you're in an environment like this, it's like safe space is a bad word, but it is. It's like, it's so comfortable. We're out to have fun. It's, there's nothing, you're not paying somebody to be here to like show you everything. Like you're just here to enjoy like you would with, like when we were kids or in college, where you go out and do something fun. Like in that we get lost in our own worlds. And then it's like, I got so much work I do with my family and I got so much work I got to do at the office. Like there's just not a lot left over. And what you realize is that if you start to look at it slightly differently, you could end up having that same intensity, and I call it high intensity living. You can have that intensity across all the aspects of your life. You can be as professional as a husband as you are in the office. You can be as good as a weekend with the guys as you are when you're signing a new deal. Like you train for those moments. You try to do great at your office, and like that's your work, and you can actually have the same emotional responses from being great and fun and amazing in other areas as well. And that's why you find like people that go and coach Little League, they get so much out of it, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, because basically like what you're getting out of your job, you're finding a problem, you're trying to find solutions, you're testing things out. Like and you get results. And that makes high performing people specifically, that makes them tick. That's what they find their joy and their success in life.
I find there's also value in hyper learning, right? Hyper learning is amongst other people who have a desire to get better. Continuous improvement is very important. And when you get high level people who are like, man, how could I move faster? How could I move more efficiently? I don't need to actually live through the pain or make a bad real estate investment.
Right.
And here's a person who's ready to instruct us like he did last night on some challenges that you may be going through, like what we faced and how I found opportunity and things that exist. So I thought that was very important. And then the other thing is, think about the people, and this is what I'm going to challenge everybody in the audience today, is like, think about the people that you can call at 2 a.m. who will come and pick you up when the car breaks down, right? And that's built on a level of trust. They are your closest friends, and that is built on confidentiality, authenticity, vulnerability, and dependability. So as we create these environments, we get in these environments together, we have a couple of things. Confidentiality is not an issue because we have all these things from different businesses, and we agree to have these conversations, and we go deep about that, and we talk about that, and it's not leaving here. 2 is authenticity and vulnerability is established by feeling in the environment. We get that. It's created by what you've done here, and the people are sharing in that. But I think the dependability you establish because you know these people to be dependable.
Yeah.
And they've established that in their lifetimes of other things they've accomplished. So it's a big part of being able to build trust and relationships with people. And if you can get those 4 things right, that's a big deal for me.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because we make a lot of jokes about, the reject average clubs. You can get rejected from it pretty quickly.
That's right.
Because at the
and
end
what do
of
you
the
get rejected for?
Well, it's robbing me of joy, basically, is the number one thing. If you take joy away, and that's like, if you cancel or you don't show up, like there are things that as a nonprofit, like it's not a business. So if you say you're gonna come to the event and you're going to do something and then you don't show up, it's like, oh, but don't worry, I'll send you the $1,200. It's like, well, that I don't like, thanks, I guess. But like, now I got to take $1,200 from you for something you didn't even get, like that. Now that makes me like, I don't like that. That's not what I do this for. Right. Like I want joy. And so when people, they commit to them and they don't show up, then it's just like, hey man, you made this more difficult for me. You go a little bit lower on the invite list. Right. Yeah. Whereas it's like, Jeff comes to every single one.
Yes.
Like, and he's the greatest dude. So you're just like, Jeff, he provides joy. Jeff will never rob me of joy. Right. I'll put anything together. I'll go to the ends of the earth to make this fun for everybody, because I know he'll be there, and that's the kind of thing. So it's like when you talk about dependability, like that is, in my world, that's what this club is. And in business, there's other elements that signal those same things where it's like, we think of it as joy here because it's fun, exciting stuff, but it's the same thing at the office. Like when you rob me of potential, of success, of feeling accomplished, that should be not rewarded, right? And we put up with so much in business from people that in our personal lives, we would never let them treat us like that. And TV, when I was, in Hollywood on a day-to-day basis, that is what you do all day, every day. Is you let people treat you like you never let them do that in the personal world.
Yes.
And so when you talk about dependability, it is one of those crucial elements. And when you surround yourself with people that you can depend on, it lightens up a lot of the emotional side of you to actually perform better, to have more fun, to perform better at the office, to be more successful. And I think people discount that. They don't put as much stock in that as they probably should.
Well, and where I equate that just a paradigm shift for me of such a valuable lesson is your lack of dependability has a serious effect on others, right? You just said it robs you of your joy.
Yeah.
But like, what else does it do? It decreases potential in people. It reliability is now in question. Efficiencies are now lost. Like all these downstrokes of your lack of dependability for other people in your life, it's killing them.
Yeah.
Right. It's robbing them of their joy.
That's right.
Right. And it may be robbing them of other things that they have responsibility for, like, oh, I have a responsibility to pay these people, and now you didn't pay me, or you didn't show up, or whatever. And I'm like, oh, I guess that's on me now. And so it's increasing their level of responsibility. And now it's this downstroke of lack of dependability is massive.
Yes.
Massive. So Brant Pinvidic joins me, and Hollywood director, TV producer.
I've done a lot of that stuff.
3-Minute Rule author. I mean, you've done it all. Let's talk about when you talk about joining into these one percenters, these people that, what have you found about them that brings you the most joy? What is it about being around them that gets you, like, I can see it in you.
Yeah.
You light up and you feel the energy. And
I think that what I find is a lot of high performing people are very unbalanced in their in their sort of, like, I guess the simplest way to say is their work-life balance, right? Like, they're hyper focused in one area, they're hyper successful in one area, but they have insecurities and shortcomings in so many other areas. They know that. They can never portray that or let anybody understand that, but it's like so easy to poke through. You know what I mean? Like, I have one of my keynotes, I say, like, when I'm talking about social media and all this kind of stuff, I say, I am not as rich as famous as you think I am. Like, that's just the fact that is just a fact. And everybody is like that. And I say, but you as the audience are probably richer and more famous than you think you are. Like, that's the difference, is that perception is so odd, right? And like, everybody is, like you said, everybody has struggles, everybody has issues, everybody has things to overcome, and everybody feels that imposter syndrome.
yes, everybody,
like, at such a massive level, right? And even when I was talking to you the other day in our opening thing, and I was asking about your World Series ring, and I was like, hey, how do you use it? How does it feel? Is it a crutch? Is it a help? Like, what would your life be like if you didn't get that win? You know, if it was a couple runs short and you were the guy who went to the World Series 3 times and had no rings, like, how would the world perceive you versus how you perceive yourself, right? And that, I find, at a high level, you get people who, you know, mostly high level is because they've achieved something really spectacular at a recognizable high level, wins a World Series, has $100 million business or whatever it is.
Whatever it is.
And there's only a few gauges of that, right? Like, and really, like, money is kind of the benchmark. Like, do they have a bunch of money? Did they win a bunch of things? Like, that makes it simple. When you get into that mode and you have money and you've done these things, you realize, like, that's a very small part of life. Like, it's a big drive, don't get me wrong, but the rest of your personality, the rest of who you are, the rest of what you do,
your relationships,
like, you cannot develop any of that and be successful at some sort of tech company, exit and put $80 million in your pocket. And the only difference is like, okay, you can tip the waitress more, you have a slightly bigger house, like, that as a person, as the ability to, like, go through life is no better improved, you know, like, you're still that same person. And one of the big things I'm working on now is that we spend so much time of our time and our expertise. We take our creativity, expertise, and our time, we combine those together to get a return on that investment, which is basically cash. That's what work is. You give time, you give creative endeavors that you've developed, and you get money in return. Okay, so we do that formula. As we're young, we get better at that formula. We specialize in that formula. We get more money. We do better. Life does better for us because we make more money. What we don't spend a lot of time is like, okay, the next formula is, how do I take that time and my creativity, add it to the money to equal happiness, joy? Like,
where's it
at? And like, so you find people who are really good at making money, but not a lot of people are good at spending it. Like, and they don't spend, like, the amount of time and energy you chart and plan and think about how to get money and keep money and make it work for you, compared to how much time you figure out, how can I spend this money in the most effective, efficient, enjoyable way,
and create value for
others and myself. Like, almost no time thinking that. And so I have a lot of people in my club and a lot of people that come on these trips and want to do this. They have money, but they don't have the ability to spend it, to directly exchange it for joy or happiness. And that is really surprising to me. It's like, if you've ever been to like a Chuck E. Cheese, where you go out and you play all the games and you hustle and you get all the tickets, and then you got to go to the counter,
the reward.
And you're like, okay, I'm going to spend these tickets on stuff. And it's like, most people have no idea how to spend those tickets for something that actually makes their life better. You know, and doing this trip where we've been across the country and met every party meeting, and always make love America. And I said, you have 4 days off. Here's my Amex card. Go what you want to. They would know exactly how to spend those 4 days and spend money to make life more enjoyable for those 4 days. If I here or my friends back in Hollywood or whatever, and I gave them the exact same thing, they would have no idea what to do to actually increase their level of joy for those 4 days. Because what are they're going to go somewhere? They could do that. They can take 4 days off anytime. Yeah. So those things, they're lacks the means. Looking for ways around it, like that's what they do. Mm-hmm. And if something goes well, they take out a barrier. They get a raise. They get one of the barriers, and they get a better boat or whatever they like. Whereas people,
whatever may give them joy,
right? In the 1% and the higher performers, there's no barriers. They just don't have a vision of what actually would make them happier if anything increased in their lives or whatever. So that's weird.
There's a study that was done about, and I read it about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's like a happiness quotient. Like, at what level of income does it give you happy? And I was surprised to hear that there is a salary, and that above that, there's no more joy. Okay, well, what do you think that number is?
I mean, I kind of know what the number is, but your brain thinks it's going to be like $500,000 a year.
Exactly. Like, my brain is like going, I don't know, $1.5 million. Like, what is it? Like, okay, and what is it?
I think it's like 75.
It was 5 years ago. It was like $78,000. Right? Yeah. Like, so no matter, like, a household income of $78,000. Like, in America.
Yeah.
Raise your hand, because I thought that's like 60% of the country is like, we have a household income, like, in that range, right? At 2 income, whatever. Like, so it's staggering to think that that's a happiness question. Like, I'm going to make more.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I'm not going to be any happier.
The reality is, as you get into those minutes, and I would use the thing as about, let's say 200, right?
Okay.
Because at $200,000 you can do pretty well anything.
Yeah.
You can travel to any place and have a vacation.
Build retirement.
Yeah, like you have all of those things, right? What's surprising is that, like, now you have a new car, but everybody can, like, at $78,000 you can still buy a new car. Now, like, it's not a Mercedes, but the difference between the new sort of Mercedes is like staggeringly little.
Yeah.
Staggeringly little in price, but in functionality, right? And life is really about functionality. Like, when you come to this house and you look at this house and you like, I would love to have this house. I'd love to be this house. Yeah. It's not because anything about it brings you joy. It's the vision of what you would do in it.
Yes.
The activity. You picture yourself looking at the view. You picture yourself having friends, or like, so
in the hot tub, the snow coming down.
And have a house. It has bathrooms. It's got bedrooms. Yes, $200,000, you get a bigger house, but at $500,000, that difference is nothing. And I mean, it's literally nothing.
Minuscule.
Like, it's so unbelievable.
Fractional.
And the diminishing returns on the size of the houses and what it is, and the style of cars. Like, the only reason you want a Lamborghini is because you think driving it will give you this rush of adrenaline, and people seeing you in it will make you feel good. Yeah. So unless you actually experience that, which a lot of guys who own Lamborghinis don't really feel that anymore. Right. They only felt it when they were trying to buy it. That's right.
Yeah.
Then you lose that. So it is about, as you work through the income scale, right? And I think that nobody wants to stop at 78. You want to keep going. That's the way our lives are. But you have to realize that once you hit this critical mass at 6 figures-ish, it's like, you better start learning and training and thinking about how you're going to be able to use any of that money to make your life better. Because once you achieve some security and some comfort, like, those things are off the chart. Yep. Now you're not worried about that anymore. Yep. Now it's kind of like, okay, well, what am I doing that actually makes my life more enjoyable? And the things you buy and all the things you do, they don't have relevance unless you're prepared to use them effectively. If you have a beautiful hot tub that you have in the snow, like, you have to plan to go do that. You have to bring people over to do, like, you have to know that that's a target. It's a goal.
And I think it's a great example. Yeah. Because you don't, in an $11 million house and a $6,000 per night rental to go get a hot tub in snow. Because you could rent the $1,000 condo on the weekend, like, and get the same thing. They get the hot tub out on the deck. Yes. And you're gonna sleep in a bed just like you sleep in here. It's just a different looking condo. But you're gonna have that experience. Yes. You're gonna sit on the deck, you're gonna sit inside the snow, and the snow's all coming down, you can see the ski hill, and it will not cost you $11 million.
That's right. But I think yesterday was a good example too, when we walked up to the waterfall. Like, I would never have gone and done that by myself.
Oh yeah.
Like, you just wouldn't, because in theory, it's not part of I don't like just go on a hike for no reason, and it wouldn't do that. But because it's like, we looked what it was, we set out to do it, we had a kind of a goal, it was a plan. you achieve the goal, you see it, it's beautiful, we take pictures, and you come back and you're like, yes, that was amazing.
There's also a really experience I
plan
want to share about this too, because it was really special that we went, and really, really good time of fellowship together as men. But something very happened along the way. It was very unique. We got to the falls. It's this gorgeous location, and all of a sudden, a husband and wife that were married 2 hours before walked in with a camera person and was like, "This is our shot. We've waited 5 years of our lifetime. This is my bucket list. I'm going to get married. I'm going to be in my beautiful wedding gown, and I'm going to take a picture in front of the falls, celebrating this life that this man and I are going to create together forever." Right. And I want to be captured in this moment. And we were there for it.
Yeah, that was cool.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, you know what? And guess what? I think it cost them, $250 to rent the camera. What was it cost, right?
And I think my iPhone picture was just as good.
Right? I'm not going to knock the camera, man. We don't know, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But the iPhone is pretty good, though.
Yeah, it worked out pretty well.
So in the end, Brant, last kind of words for this. I mean, we do this to create these experiences, and it gives us energy. It gives us perspective. It changes our lens, which I think is really valuable for me, because I know Trent Clark, and I know his experiences, and I know the world he's lived in, and I know I didn't grow up like a bunch of other people. And it is always fabulous. And you and I share this a lot because, as an American citizen, Brant's a Canadian citizen, and he grew up in a little different environment on Vancouver Island, which is one of the most beautiful places in the world, but lots of differences.
Yeah.
And experiences. And everyone we meet has a very different experience and a lens and a background. And we're seeing our world through our own eyes. And it's a chance to see the world through someone else's eyes. And I love that about this trip.
Right on, brother.
All right. Well, listen, everybody, great to have Brant Pinvidic again on the Winners Find a Way show. And of course, Reject Average Trip. And for you out there, please get out there, adventure, cross something off your bucket list, do something today outside your comfort zone, which is a challenge for me. I have had many times on these trips like this, I have faced a fear that I equate to Twain, right? Where I spent 90% of my life worrying about things that never happened, and I did it yesterday. I didn't get swept by a river and get swept away down a creek and die in waders, right? It turns out it didn't happen, right? So, I can imagine all these fears that might be possible, and yet facing them, I would have full confidence tomorrow, again, going into the river and doing that, which I wouldn't have
normally,
2 years ago, right?
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
So it is a valuable asset to you as an intellect, as for your mind, for your mindset, and you're going to make great fellowship along the way. Brant, anything to finish with?
I think one of the biggest phrases I have people do when I coach is you have to ask yourself, if it never got better than this, is this enough? And you'd be surprised at my people are like, yes, if I could live this lifestyle in this budget, guaranteed for the rest of my life, this was it. This was the maximum right there. Is that good enough for you? And if you're saying no, that's fine. You grind till you get it. But have an idea of where that is, right? And if you get to a spot where you're like, yeah, this would be good enough.
Yeah.
You have to be able to find that spot and work to believe that. So that it isn't always about getting to the next level, because those levels will stop being available. And it's look at your life. If it never got better, would this be enough? You're like, yes. And if I asked you 5 years ago, if I could point you what you look like now, you'd be like, would that be good enough for you? Would you be happy? Would you be satisfied to live like that for the rest of your life? You'd be like, oh my God, yes, absolutely. And then you get 5 years later and you're like, I want more. I want more. Because
I'm glad you brought that up, because I look at that, and I'm a driver. I'm a carrot guy. I go after it all the time, right? And they dangle it and I go. And a guy with us, Brian, who owns jet skis to Catalina.
Yeah.
Is that right? Jet skis?
Yep.
And so Brian said something very profound to me. We were sitting around first day, and he was like, oh my gosh, I wake up every day and I love my life. It's incredible what I've created and what's involved, the team I have, all the people. I have a great family, all these things. And I don't want to be anywhere else. And listen, I can count on one hand how many people have told me that in their lifetime, right? And Tim Selga, who was on the show a little while ago, we just released his show on the podcast. He said, he talked about the coach who said, hey, have to or want to? And this mindset, I have to go to work today. Oh, I have to go pick up the kids. I have to. Man, it was so clear Brian wants to. He wakes up and he goes, oh, you know what I want to do? I want to rent 400 jet skis today, and I want to meet all these people. It's gonna be great. I want to come up to Montana and meet some friends and go out and do this. I want to, because he doesn't have to do any of it.
No, right. And that people love that.
But he recognizes that in him. Right. So he's the guy, if you could ask him, you're like, I'm living it, brother.
That's right. So, and that's the thing. Like, he's still grinding, but he's getting better. We're all getting better.
All getting better.
That's right.
Living it. For everybody else, hey, thank you to Brant Pinvidic for joining us today. It's always fun. We can't beat. Like, look at the view, the landscape today. Come on.
Not
too bad. So thank you for joining us on the Winter Find a Way show. Can't wait to see you next time, every Friday, 12:30 Eastern, 9:30 a.m. Pacific. Always join us, like us, subscribe to us, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. Join us on all of them. Great to see everybody. Until next week.
See you later.